Hello, I'm Duane.
And I'm Shada. And welcome to All Things After the Ring. So, we've been married now for about 17 years and really wanted to just take the time to think about what we've learned during our time together and also be able to learn for other couples as we grow in our marriage. And so we hope this time will be helpful to some and to others. You can give us a few pointers on just how to be better together.
When we got married, I remember thinking you were the most amazing and incredible person on the planet. I still think that.
Okay, I was
Of
about to
course I
say.
do. Of course I do, absolutely. That's why I asked you to be my wife.
Okay.
And I thought I would always see you and think of you in that way. But the reality is, we choose how we think about one another.
Yeah, we can choose to continuously focus on or notice the negative,
We can choose to presume our partner is playing games.
or we can choose to believe the best about each other. And that's not always easy. I remember a few years after we got married, and my sister was getting married, and I was the matron of honor in her wedding. And with all the planning and ripping and running around to just help my sister get ready, get things for the wedding, I knew that on that Saturday, I wasn't going to be able to pick up my dress. So do you remember what I asked you to do?
You asked me to pick up your dress.
I asked you to pick up my dress. My dress needed to be altered. I took it to our neighborhood cleaners to get it altered, and you were supposed to pick it up. So, after I did all my ripping and my running around, I came home to get ready to pack up because we were spending the night in a hotel. And where was my dress?
We're still at the cleaners.
Yes. So you didn't have my dress.
That's true.
Yes. So how do we believe the best in times like this?
Indeed.
Yeah.
How do we believe the best when our spouse messes up, like I did that day, or when we don't feel it, or when we don't see it? Well, Philippians chapter 4, verses 8 and 9 has some insight into how to do this. And that verse says this. It says, summing it all up, friends, I'd say you do best by filling your minds and meditating on things true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, gracious, the best, not the worst, the beautiful, not the ugly, things to praise, not things to curse. Put into practice what you learned from me, what you heard and saw and realized. Do that, and God, who makes everything work together, will work you into his most excellent harmonies.
Mm-hmm. So some of the things that really stick out to me in that scripture is it first lists the things that we should think about, and that we should think about things that are true, things that are noble or notable about our husbands, or about anything. And I think that that's something that's helped us in our marriage, is that we try to think about what's best about each other first. And for me, what I had to do to make this more practical was to create a list of all the things that I appreciate about you, all the things that are beautiful about you, how you're there for me, how I can always count on you, how you're such a great father. And so I wrote a list for myself, and it's something that for me, I try to look at every once in a while just to remind myself of who you are and what you mean to me. Because I think in the moment when things happen, we can easily forget those things. But if it's something that we're reading over or looking at constantly, it's a great reminder. So when this happened, although it was disappointing, I think I had built enough in my mind, in my heart, of who you were to know that, like, I wanted to respond in an understanding way, and I will really set out to believe the best, knowing that you would not in any way try to ruin my sister's wedding or hurt me in some way by not picking up my dress, and that, like, if you didn't pick it up, like, it just wasn't on purpose. So yeah, it was that's part of the verse has been very helpful to me, and especially on this day.
Right. So as you kind of alluded to, our lists and our thoughts give us perspective, but it's our actions, I believe, that come back at us. And the verse says, put into practice what you learned from me, what you heard and saw and realized. And so we strive to act in a way we want imitated. So the question becomes, how do we handle it when we're bothered, when we're irritated, or when we're angry, like I'm sure you were at that time? And not getting there on time to pick up your dress, I felt terrible. I felt awful. I dropped the ball. I blew it. And you were either going to be at your sister's wedding not looking like the other bridesmaids, or you weren't going to be able to stand. And with all that in mind, what I remember most is your response. You didn't flip out, you didn't get emotional, you didn't go over the top, you didn't flip over tables. You said to me, don't beat yourself up. I know it wasn't intentional. It'll all work out. And because you responded like that, I was more determined, inspired, and focused to get that dress from the cleaners for you. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do it, but I was like, I got to make this right.
Yeah, and I wish I could say that in myself, I would like that's a normal reaction. But I think two things helped and helps us even now is that just trying to, first of all, believe the best and really focusing on what's good, what's the truth about each other. And then I think the second part of that verse that says, do that, and God, who makes everything work together, will work you into his most excellent harmonies. And so I think in that situation, I'm like, okay, what does Duane need right now? He doesn't need me to lose it. Secondly, because he probably already feels awful. And then thirdly, it was somehow God is going to make a way. And I didn't know what that way was going to be. I honestly didn't. In my mind, I just kind of was like, okay, I'm going to be there for my sister, to help her, to get ready, to all of that. And like somehow we're going to look back and laugh on this situation one day. But just somehow God's going to work it out. And he did.
Yeah. Which brings us to our final point. Trust God's grace when we make a mistake. Trust God's grace when we make a mistake. So early Sunday morning, after you left and headed off to help your sister out for her wedding, I started calling the cleaners and leaving a message. I Googled to find out the corporate headquarters. I prayed and I pleaded with God for an open door. I called the corporate office. I drove by the cleaners off chance to see if anybody was there. I went to one of their sister cleaners to see if somebody was there who can help me. Nobody was there. I called and left a few more messages. I drove by some other cleaners to see if they could maybe do something about it. And just when it seemed like I had exhausted all of my options, my phone rang. And on the other line, someone said, "Hello, Mr. Porter? We've gotten your messages." Because I left about 10 of them. "We've gotten your messages, And we want to know what time you can come and pick up this dress. And my answer was right now. You see, when we make the effort to honor God with how we treat our spouse, I believe God blesses our actions, even when we don't do everything right. Trust God's grace when we make a mistake.
Yeah, so I think what we've learned is to make our marriage all that we hope for, all that we've dreamed, all that we've imagined, that it is essential that we believe the best about one another.
And that means we work to B, build a list of what's great about our mate. E, examine what I'm telling myself about my spouse.
S, strive in a way that can be imitated. And T, trust God.
I'm Duane.
I'm Shada, and we hope that you enjoyed this episode.